Stand for the pledge. The flag is on the back wall. I pledge allegiance The mission of the School District of Albany is to educate and prepare all students for college and career, citizenship and life in partnership with our diverse community. First up on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Wilkins, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to begin with a heartfelt thank you to our community for supporting our two facility propositions in last week's vote. Both propositions passed with a 3-to-1 margin. We are excited and grateful to be able to move forward with our plans for 50 North Lark Street and 395 Elk Street. We are moving on both fronts the day after the vote as promised. We have a lot of work to do to have both buildings ready for 2017-18 school year, and we will follow through with our commitment to our students and families and to our entire community. I will keep everyone updated throughout this process. We've had our annual district spelling bee at Hackett Middle School last Friday. The winners from the spelling bees at 15 elementary schools and middle schools all came together to decide the district champion. It was fun, a little nerve-wracking at times for our spellers. I want to congratulate all of our building champions on their achievements. Our district winner this year is one of my former students, Graham Gordon, an 8th grader at Myers Middle School. Graham was also the district champion as a 6th grader, so this is his second time representing the district. He will lead our contingent at the next month's regional spelling bee in Schenectady. Joining Graham at the Proctors will be our district runner-up Montessori Magnet School 5th grader Isaac Allen and our 3rd place speller Hackett Middle School 7th grader Ingrid Calafati. Congratulations again to our top spellers. Wonderful job. Very nerve-wracking. Really good job. A reminder that next week is Regents Week at Albany High. We will have a regular school day on Monday. Then our students will be taking exams from Tuesday through Friday. On those days, only students taking exams will report to school. I know our students and staff have been working really hard this year preparing for these exams. I wish for all of our students who are taking the exam for a much successful week next week. The second of our 2 community budget workshops is coming up next Monday in the evening. The workshop will be held at Albany High Media Center beginning at 5:30 p.m. Assistant Superintendent for Business Affairs, Bill Hogan, will provide insight into our budget development process, which is about to shift into very high gear. Mr. Hogan provides a lot of very helpful information, and I encourage all community members to please attend. We have a guest here tonight, and it's my pleasure to welcome one of our exceptionally talented Albany High student athletes. We have 2. One was unable to come. Falcon football player Kyer Tillery and Jarrell Shaney were both leaders of our first winning season in 11 years. Both have received all-state honors for the 2nd year in a row. I would like to ask our former coach, wonderful coach, Joey DiPiazza, to come forward and tell us more about Kyer and Jarrell, and to introduce our baby that's here tonight, Kyer, to our audience.
I'm on. Dr. Wilkins, first of all, thank you. Members of the school board, thank you for recognizing 2 student athletes tonight. It wasn't too long ago, I was here speaking at board meetings, speaking to many other people, emailing, calling, tweeting, texting, you name it, anyone that would listen about athletics and how powerful it could be. And the idea that with a focused strategy, it would bring value to the entire school community. And the historic run that the football program has been on is a perfect example of that. And it's truly been amazing and something very special. Many people have played a role in getting the football program to where it's at today. But what number 6 and number 23 have accomplished, we may never see in Albany High football history again. Of course, we hope to have talented players going forward, but as talented as 6 and 23 were, we have to realize players like these guys do not come along too often. Some people may not know what their football stats may mean. Some people may. I won't get into that. You know, what I think I would like to speak about is what I'm most proud about for both young men, and I'm sure many others in this room, and that's the commitment that you made, not only to being a great football player, but also a great student and a great person. And that's something you'll take with you the rest of your life. Now, we know that it wasn't an easy road. It's never going to be an easy road going forward in life. But the foundation that these two young men have developed as young men, we know that their best days are ahead of them. We're so proud of you guys. We hope nothing but the best for you going forward, and congratulations.
I don't really need to say a lot. I appreciate Coach DP for staying with us, the commitment he had towards the team. Thank you guys for appreciating us and recognizing the hard work we put in as players, students, and people outside of school and football. Nothing much to really say. I just want to say thank you.
Go Patriots, is that who you're rooting for?
Yeah, Patriots gonna get a ring this year. Support Deion Lewis. He's from 518, so he has to represent. Thank you.
I just wanted to not just thank you on behalf of the board, but also to say that quite a number of us were there often, Mr. Bruce, myself, watching this team. And one of the things that you and your teammate were able to bring to the team this year under the coaching of Coach DiPiazza was the idea of what it means to be a team. And to show the other kids what it meant to be stand-up, to be really a leader, and that when you have the kind of raw talent that a lot of the kids on the team had, and especially the two of you did. And again, this is, for those that know, this is the second year that you have been named to the, and given this recognition, this honor. Now you're a senior. But to have that raw talent doesn't mean anything if you can't put it together and have it there from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, and have it there week in and week out. And so the ethics that you had inculcated, that were given to you through the coaching of Coach GP and all of the coaches below him, you guys took it on. You really helped grow your own team with all of your friends and all of your classmates, and that is a testament, as Joey said, as the coach said, to who you are as an individual. And Coach, thank you for what you gave to them, because again, raw talent was there, but what you did, more than play calls, more than anything else, more than actually any of this football structure, was to teach these young men to believe in themselves and to believe that as a team they could actually achieve. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the kind words.
next, I would like to introduce the most wonderful principal of this wonderful, amazing building of Albany School for Humanities, Mr. Fred Engelhardt, for just a brief update of what's happening the last 6 months. We met here in September, I think? September, October, so it's been not too long ago, so. Thank you, Mr. Engelhardt.
Scary when you said, don't touch any of the buttons. Well, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you being here. Welcome to ASH. At ASH, I'm just going to read the motto, we are a global family. We recognize our common humanity by respecting and celebrating all cultures. We have a shared responsibility to protect our planet and create a more peaceful world. Our 4 pillars that we say every morning over the loudspeaker is cultural studies, the arts, character education, and community service. And we embed character education, of course, throughout the year, and then we break the other 3 pillars into trimesters. So we're actually in the arts trimester, so we're studying the arts from different countries right now. So I wanted to, since I've already been in this hot seat earlier this year, I thought maybe I'd dive a little bit deeper into some of the arts that we do here at ASH, specifically theater arts, which is so much fun. Many of you know our icon here in the building, Miss Baguki. She puts on biannual plays. They make Broadway envious because they're so great. A couple years ago, we did Lion King. Last year, we did a play that was written by her mother, so it was really a wonderful experience for her, and the Times Union covered that. It was wonderful. This year, she is actually sacrificing some of her time, and we've been able to carve out a little bit of time for her to work with K through 2, and they are retelling fairy tales and folk tales. And these pictures are, you'll see the gingerbread man next to the horse. The horse is trying to eat the gingerbread man. And then they did a retelling of the 3 little pigs. So you'll see like the 3 ninjas, and the kids came up with this on their own. The 3 ninjas, there was the chickens, they just came up with these wonderful ideas. So it's a great way to engage them in literature and then also engage our families to come to our school as well. What I'd love to do is talk a little bit about Miss Gentile. Some of you know Miss Noel. She's amazing, and she is with us. This is her 3rd year, and she's a .6 here at Albany School of Humanities. She loves being a .6. She loves spending some time with her family. She works with grades 3 through 6, and I just wanted to be able to go over some of the things that she does. Not only does she do a period at the high school, but then she comes to ASH and she works with students very deeply around topics that deal with social justice, self-awareness and identity, anti-bullying. I was able to walk into one of her classes the other day, and there was some 5th and 6th grade boys talking about the gender bias around soccer pay. And I'm like, whoa, that's great. And so they do some of that wonderful work. She's worked with not only our teachers, but also some local events, and has really pushed the integration of social just theater art work within curriculum. She's built partnerships with Albany High, Youth FX, and Arts Letters and Numbers, and those are just a few of the things that she's done. So I just have a couple of short videos, if that's okay. I know we're on a time crunch. All right, I can't press a button, but I'm supposed to click. This video was put on by our communications department.
School of Humanities and at Albany High School. At ASH, our theme is global citizenship, which works perfectly with the work that we do as artists in the theater space. I am a firm believer in the arts being an essential part of someone's learning experience. The arts offer us a space to find ourselves, especially students who are struggling academically. It's a place to be successful. It's a place where your perspective and your voice matter. My mission as a theater arts teacher is to give space for student voice, create a safe space where students can process things that happen in their own life, things that are happening in the world. I think oftentimes we as adults underestimate the things that students are seeing in the world and the impact that it's having on them. And I think it's really important to acknowledge the experiences that students have personally and the things that they're witnessing happening in our world, and to feel a sense of agency as an artist, and to feel that their voice matters.
So there's so much I could say just about what she does. It is a little piece of nirvana. If you want to come and ever see her and the work that she does, it is magic. And so it's life-changing for sure. As you saw in the video, the Albany High students come down. It's a wonderful vertical partnership that she's created with them. They are rock stars. They're treated like rock stars, and I think they love it, and the kids love having them. And they do a lot of collaboration together. One of the ideas that we had last year was to create empathy within our school body by having our ENL students tell their stories. And so we have another quick clip, one of our ENL students who told her story about coming to the United States and her experience. I'm gonna play that real quick.
My name is Darinellis Comas Bertrand. I am 10 years old. I am from Lajas, Puerto Rico. I came 2 years ago and I started learning English in school and home. I made some friends and they helped me with my English every single day. I'm proud of myself because I could speak two languages, what I didn't did before. It was hard to learn another language, but at the same thing, it was excited. It was hard to live in Puerto Rico for me because I have all my friends, my family. I was by the water because we live where the Baguera is and stuff. But I always, like, every single Friday, my mom went to the beach so that we could go swimming and stuff, and we have fun. And I missed that part a little bit. They're like special both places for me because I have family in both sides. So I think where it feels home is here because like I live here now and I don't live there no more. And that would be like, this would be like my home now. My family. Because they always be like next to me. They always be like trying to help me with everything, especially my mom. I would change violence to stop and like to be like there will be more peace in the world and more love.
So deep stuff, and that was actually not the deepest. There were some that would like just have you start crying. Some of our students who come from war-torn countries talking about how they've come to the United States and how they feel safe and some of the struggles they've had to go through. But it's been a wonderful opportunity to build empathy not only within our school body, but then also we're learning about cultures, we're celebrating diversity. It was a wonderful opportunity. So really, I want to thank you for supporting a magnet school. It's my little soapbox. It's one of our ways, Ms. Gentile, again, to reiterate, she's a .6, and she's done so much, just one staff person in a school, and thinking creatively about the work that she does around global citizenship. So I want to thank you for that. You know that a theme-based school builds student engagement, and that's really what we're doing. You know, it also allows families to have choice, of course, and because it's based on student interest, it automatically has the byproduct of creating a diverse school population. So thank you for letting me be proud of my staff and my students. I appreciate it. And that's it.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you, Mr. Engelhardt. And also, I had an opportunity to see Ms. Gentile in action at Albany High production, and it was outstanding. And those Albany High students that come down to Ash, they are treated like true rock stars. Those kids are looking for them, they look up to them, and the sense of pride from the Albany High students is remarkable. They commented on it at the end of their production of what Ms. Gentile's class has done for them. So this is really, truly a vertical alignment that we need more of. So thank you. Finally, and I mean finally, I am now going to turn it over to our new student board representative. We welcome Ms. Esther Paul. We are so happy, Esther. Esther is a junior at Albany High School, a member of the student council. We're so happy you're here. So we look forward to your monthly updates, and I'm turning the mic over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. So I'm just going to give a brief report on what's been happening because we've been trying to get the school together to come together as a whole so that there is diversity and everybody respects each other's space. So with French Club, they've raised $230 in a Cafe Noel fundraiser and is also hosting another cafe on February 28th where everyone's invited. The Health Club hosted a program where different people came from the Hope House program to educate us more on the topic of addiction and drug use and the causes and effects of that, using people with different stories that the youth could relate to make it more personable. They also hosted another program called Safe Talk, which educated students on suicide awareness, allowing those who attended the training to become certified Safe Talk personnel. They are also in charge of the Black History Month program for the entire school, and they're really excited about it. The book club, some of the students took it upon themselves to restart the book club, and their goal is to learn more about the world around them through literature and through literature and interaction while still making it fun. They're also trying to break the stereotype that if you read, you're not cool or you're boring or that you're not social. They have also been approved to attend the Rochester Teen Reader-Con, where they will be representing Albany High in a positive light and building our reputation in the world of literature. They're also designing t-shirts to bring more awareness to the club, and is also having a fundraiser with the help of Blaze Pizza on Wednesday, March 15th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Anyone's welcome. For more information, you could call the school's library. The Falcon Council is hosting a Register to Vote campaign whose goal is to sign up all seniors or those who are turning 18 or are 18 years of age who are citizens to vote in the next election so that they have a say in the government. They're also in charge of putting on the honor roll breakfast where they feed from 200 to 900 kids and do an amazing job. They're also working towards making our school a no place for hate school and a peer mentoring program to better help the newcomers and those who are attending the school, right now. The training takes place on February 8th and 9th for those wanting to make a difference. The number of children making the honor roll has increased from an average between 300 to 700 kids. We started the year out with 900 kids who made the honor roll, so we're very excited about that. The students are very excited about the new lacrosse coach because everybody likes that coach. And one of the students named Ridwana Hexelari from our senior class got into Harvard University. So we're very excited that one of us got that far and could be an example for the others.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Esther. And I also wanted to add, we also have a student who got into who got into Brown. And I believe one other. So we'll try to get that data. So I appreciate you bringing it up. So again, Esther, welcome. We are thrilled you're here. We look forward to your coming and sharing more exciting things with us and events at the high school. Now, Paula, it is public comment. I don't think anybody has signed up. Nonetheless, I will still read the statement. The Albany Board of Education welcomes district residents, parents, students, and other people to our meeting. Community involvement at board meetings is encouraged so that we can better understand your views. Please be aware that by law, individual student information or particular personnel issues cannot be discussed at public sessions of the board. When recognized by the board president, please state your name and city of residence. Statements are restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes, and speakers will be notified by the board president when their time has expired. We take public comment very seriously, and careful notes will be taken. However, the board generally does not respond while the meeting is in public session. So we don't have anybody signing up, and is there anyone here who, having not signed up, would like to speak? Okay, so we are done with that, and we are moving on now. So we are moving on to routine consent. Can I get a motion to adopt routine consent? Ms. Roach, and seconded by Ms. Savage. Any set-asides? Let me just get my pen. Ms. Roach.
Yes, I'd like to set aside item I, HR items, and just not the whole thing, but just A, 15A, the student volunteer coach at the high school.
Oh, I was going to do that, but thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for making sure. I did know I need to recuse myself, so I don't have to do that now. Anything else? Any other set-asides?
I have
Mr.
a quick
Mr.
question.
Bruce.
Transfers for over $10,000 last week, or last board meeting, we had a question. Is that going to come back next board meeting?
It
or
was in the SBU. Ms. McKenna had it in the SBU.
Was it
last
in the
time.
SBU? Okay. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other set-asides? So I have a set-aside for CASDA. And just checking. Anything else? Okay. Can I get, seeing no more discussion, all those in favor of routine consent accepting HRA 15A and the CASDA addendum, which is D? All those in favor? Unanimous. Can I get a motion to accept the HR part of routine consent, capital A15A, which is the student coach, Matan Adler? And I will point out, well, we'll first get a motion. Mr. Bruce seconded. Ms. Roach, any discussion? Yes. Ms. Roach.
This is not actually a discussion about who the person is, but I had an inquiry from a district resident about why a volunteer position would be included on an HR document when typically, obviously, there are a lot of volunteers in the district whose service is not formally logged in board docs. And I assume it has something to do with coaching positions and the legal requirements for those.
Yes, this position is put on as a volunteer coach because it is an unpaid, and in the past we have put volunteer coaches on and indicated whether they are, indicate clearly that it's an unpaid position. But yes, the coaches do have certain certification requirements that they need to meet.
And that's why that's why we have coaches on here, because you keep track of their certification requirements, where another, let's say if I came to read to kids or something once a week, I would not be in your system.
That is correct, and this is a certification that is granted through the education department.
Understood. I think the concern from the parent was other students who volunteer might not have their contributions adequately recognized for their college applications or something like that, but just passing that information along. Thanks.
So if I could speak to that, leaving aside the issue that everybody creates their own common app online and puts in what they want and what they don't, what this relates to is, as Deborah said, is that under state ed, you can actually get a temporary certification. You have to go through training. You have to do different things, CPR, first aid. You actually have to go to full day work on other kinds of things. You have to do stuff online. And so Matt, so no, talk about students, but it's my son. So anyway, so this was his second year of actually doing student coaching. He was doing volunteer coaching at the high school, and somebody said to him, you know, as a student, you can actually get certified through state ed if you wanted to do that. You have to go through training, and you have to go for a full day up. He went up to Galway for something. There was a lot of work involved in it, and he did it. So he became certified. It's a temporary position. It runs through next year's football procedure because it goes through like January of 2018, and it was something that he did on his own, and the applications were things you get online, and the district was able to at least direct him how to do that. So that is the answer to that, and it is actual, and anyone who's a student can talk to, of course they can't do it probably when they're 8, but he's at the high school, you can become certified, and he is actually 17, and I don't know if there's a minimum requirement of maybe 16 or something. I don't know what that is, but you actually can do that.
Oh,
and
excellent.
And so it is an actual formal certification process.
And that's what I assumed. I'm actually very excited to learn that students under 18 are also eligible to do it. Sounds like an excellent program, and a program that saving the district money somehow, maybe a little.
Well, I mean,
who knows?
Joy
But it's a
Pi-
good
No, I mean,
program to
he
have.
actually did work and spent a lot of hours doing it, but he loves football. So if somebody weren't interested in a high school student in something else, we would be able to direct them through the state website as to what they do, and it's really self-motivated.
But just to repeat it back to make sure I have it, the situation of athletics coach because of the certification requirements is unique among student volunteer positions, and that's the answer, right?
Yes, and the other thing that is nice about requiring the volunteer coaches to go through this process is you also would get the benefit of a fingerprint background check.
And that makes it exactly stuff like that is why I would assume HR is handling it. Thanks.
So this appointment is retroactive through last football season, is that?
Deborah can answer that. I saw it for the first time when the routine consent came out. I did not even know it was going to be on routine consent.
Yes, it is retroactive. That was the request had come in from Kathy Ryan, and we honored that because Matt had in fact assisted this past fall.
If there's no more discussion, call for a vote on A, 15A of HR. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. And that is all board members, Ms. Tibbetts, other than Sue Adler. All those opposed? All those abstained? Me, Sue Adler. Can I get a motion to approve the CASDA addendum, which is D in routine consent? Ms. Smith? Second. Ms. Roach, any discussion? Okay. My discussion on it is just the request that, once again, in terms of the measurables, was just that it appeared again to me that they were descriptive. Except about the 100% of the teachers implementing the differentiated instruction, that there really were no percentages broken out, even a small amount, even a single digit, as to the impact, if any, on academic performance. And I'm just hoping that we can get to a point where there's at least some minimum of that put into contracts, unless they're a first go-round, and as this is an addendum, it's not a first Oh, it is? It's just the addendum because we're increasing the numbers, because we're applying it to a second school? Okay. So then I guess the question is, even on a first go-round, do we have some floor about what we anticipate the measurable results are, or is it just really taking it and again, only having the measurement of the amount of teachers putting it into practice in the classroom?
So the way that this is built into the SEPs for principals to monitor is principals are actually monitoring the implementation of the practices from the training in their walkthroughs through classrooms. So when I figure out how to summarize the SEP quarterly reports for you all, you will see that one of the things that we're tracking at the DSIP level and principals are tracking at the SEP level is the number of times they're getting into classrooms and the quality of differentiation that they're seeing if that's their area of focus. And so they'll be able to give a picture of that more so than the impact of it on student performance at this point in time.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approval of the CASDA addendum? And it is unanimous. Thank you. That is it on routine consent, but right now I'm going to add on the walk. Oh, sorry, Mr. Bruce.
Quick question. I'm looking at the minutes from last week, and the transfer is over $10,000. So we didn't approve that transfer, even though the extra information was provided in the board update. So are we going to bring that back next board meeting, or do we want to?
Can it wait until the next board meeting so that it's not another walk-on? Yes? Okay, thank you. And thank you for flagging it, Kenny. Appreciate it. Before moving on to action certification, I'm going to do the two walk-ons. Paul, do you have the one for me? While he's walking that over, I will start with the first one. So I'm going to need a motion to amend the agenda to add two resolutions. I'll do them separately. Thank you. The first resolution that I'd like to get a motion to amend on is a resolution for termination of GWU Child Development Center. Can I get somebody, Ms. Smith, can I get a second on that? Mr. Bruce, thank you. And all those in favor, and we need 5 to amend the agenda? And that is unanimous. Seeing that we have that now, I'd like to get a motion to adopt the resolution for termination of GWU Child Development Center, which reads, "It is hereby resolved that upon the recommendation of the interim superintendent, Dr. Kimberly Young Wilkins, the contract for early pre-kindergarten (EPK) services between the City School District of Albany and the GWU Child Development Center is terminated effective January 20, 2017. Can I get a motion? Ms. Smith, second. Mr. Bruce, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution? And that is unanimous. Thank you. I'd like to get a motion, please, to amend the agenda to add a resolution regarding an agreement between the City School District of Albany and the United States Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, resolving case number 02-16-1476. Can I get a motion? Ms. Roach, second by Mr. Chator. All those in favor of the motion to amend? That is unanimous. May I also please, now that is amended the agenda, get a motion to pass the resolution of that I've just read, the one that is between the Board of Education, between the City School District of Albany and the United States Department of Education, Office for Civil Rights, resolving case number 02-16-1476, whereby the board authorizes the interim superintendent of schools, Dr. Kimberly Young Wilkins, to execute the resolution agreement on behalf of the City School District of Albany. Ms. Roach, second by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? So I'm going to just make a quick thing that I want to read, and that has to do with this resolution. I just wanted to provide some brief context for the resolution right before the vote. We had developed the current version of our district website, which is albanyschools.org. in partnership with the Capital Region BOCES approximately 12 years ago. BOCES designed and developed the site in alignment with the technology and web development standards available at that time. And of course, it is now 2017, and times have changed, as we know. And our IT and communication staff have been discussing a full redesign of our website since last summer. At this board, there's been much discussion about making our website be current with the technologies that exist now and a lot more user-friendly. Under Kent Baker's leadership as our Chief Information Officer, that process is moving forward. After our staff had initiated the process, we had received notice from the Office of Civil Rights that our website was out of compliance with current technology standards that make web content more easily accessible to those with disabilities. And this includes individuals who are blind or visually impaired and those who have disabilities affecting fine motor control, which would affect or impede the ability that they would have to use a mouse to access content on a website. Now, it is important to note that our school district was not singled out for these deficiencies. The complaint that initiated the Office of Civil Rights review of our website came from an individual actually who is in the Midwest and who has filed similar complaints about school districts' websites nationwide. We are advised that the majority of websites that are active today, school district or otherwise, have some or all of the same deficiencies. So nonetheless, we are pleased that through both our proactive efforts as a district and through the agreement with OCR addressing the specific items that OCR raised regarding the visually impaired and the blind, that we will now have the ability to improve the accessibility and functionality of our website. We will be able to remove barriers for those with disabilities and develop a more user-friendly site that takes advantage of today's technology to provide all members of the public with more information and access than ever before. I appreciate the opportunity to have explained that. All those in favor of the resolution? And it is unanimous. Thank you all very, very much. Item 7, we are on to the action certification of the canvas. So this is where we officially state the vote because Paula, and it's my first time doing this, it says I, Paula Tibbetts. So are we voting on this even though it's you?
I guess I'm actually certifying that the numbers are true.
Correct. So you're certifying that's true. So I'm going to then ask for a motion to accept the certified tally results as certified by Paula A. Tibbetts, School District Clerk of the City School District of the City of Albany, New York, on Proposition 1 with 2010 yes votes and 685 no votes, and Proposition 2's 2,066 yes votes and 617 no votes. Can I get a motion? Ms. Roach, seconded by Ms. Lang. All those in favor of adopting Ms. Tibbetts' certified school district vote tally? Unanimous. Thank you so much. Now, item 8, which is our discussion/action on Policy 1230, which is Policy 1230's public participation at board meetings. Ms. Savage.
So this is the third time I have the privilege to talk to you about Policy 1230, the public participation at board meetings policy. Those of you who've come to board meetings regularly know that a very important part of the board meetings is the public participation, which for the first time since I've been on the board, there was no public comment tonight. That's the first time in over 2 years that we've had 0 public comments. That's sort of interesting to me. ironic, since we're also, I hope, going to adopt this policy today. So what the policy committee did with this policy was essentially to try and make it consistent with our actual behavior as a board. There were some leftover things in here, for example, that people were expected to explain their topic when they signed in and then speak in order of topic and things like that. There also was some confusion at some points during the beginning of this year when there was significant public comment where people were unsure of whether they could share their time. You know, well, if I only use one of my minutes, can I give those 2 minutes to somebody else? And we were trying to clarify all that now in this period of little public comment so that we would be certain about it and there would be no confusion on people's minds if we get to a point with a heated public comment again. The other major thing that's in here is to clarify that the purpose of public comment is for people to try and impact and influence the actions of the board by sharing their intentions and thoughts about the actions of the board. It's not really the best place to come if you want to find out about something. If you have a question that needs an answer, there are better ways to do that, using email, using the phone, and approaching people individually. So those were the major changes. There's some other just cleaning up of language, but those were the big things. We talked about this at fairly good length when we brought it up, I think, in September. And there were some suggestions made. We brought that back. We talked about it again at the last board meeting, and now I hope, we are prepared to adopt the modified 1230.
Can I get a motion, please, to adopt Board Policy 1230 for public participation? Ms. Smith? Second, Ms. Roach. All in favor?
I do have.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any discussion? I apologize. Any discussion? I was on a roll, sorry.
Okay, one little edit, which is in the sentence failure to comply may result in, we just need to add in.
Who did the motion? Ms. I was going to say, the motion was actually, Paula, was it Ellen or Vicky?
I think I made the motion.
So Vicky, will you entertain the motion to amend to add the word? Okay. And Ellen, will your second also go to that? Terrific. Thank you, Mr. Bruce. All those in favor of the motion to adopt Board Policy 1230 as amended? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Sorry.
I do have one brief comment that the meeting at this very building last year at this very time is what generated this policy. So just.
Wow, it was here. Interesting, interesting. How different it looks when it's vacant, when it's empty, and it's just us. Seriously.
Security and police.
Yeah, thank you. Given context. So, Mr. Hogan, it is that time again. It feels like a long time since you sat before us and talked about the rosy nature of numbers.
Yes, our topic for tonight is the budget, one of our topics, and actually, it is actually better than I had anticipated, which is great news. Often we're not in this place in January, so and then I was very concerned the day it was released. They gave us like 4 numbers instead of 15, so I was concerned that we have a total, but we need to know what it's attached to. And those numbers actually came out last night or this morning. So we actually have good information, and they did give us a nice increase. So I'll walk you through that. There's a $1 billion increase in education. They're saying $961 million of that is, quote, school aid. There is some higher ed type stuff in there, so I think the difference is related to college and careers and that type of thing. And there were some set-asides as well. So the good news is they've actually increased pre-K funding by $5 million, aimed at expanding that program with a preference to schools, high-need schools that don't currently have it, but also other schools will benefit as well, as you'll see. Community schools are increasing that by $50 million. And again, you know, we had a lot of conversations about what can be covered under that, things such as before and after school programs, summer learning activities, medical and dental care, other social services. And then another of the governor's initiatives is the Empire State After School Program, again for public after-school programs in the 16 Empire State. I Googled that. We were on the list. The list only had like 10 cities. We were one of the 10. I couldn't find 16, but I was happy to see we were on the list that I found. So that's good news. We're eligible for that. No? Oh, there we go. Wow, we're right to the end. That was quick. You want to do it? Go ahead. Okay, so that's the correct slide. The governor, another of the governor's initiatives is there's a new tier of charter school transition aid. $22 million was put into that area, which is good news again for us with our high concentration of charter schools in the city. There's also money for career and technical education to create 10 early college high schools, and also $2 million dedicated to developing teachers, 115 additional slots for computer science teachers. And lastly, foundation aid, there was some alarm at first at that. There was wording in the executive proposal that said, in future years, you won't get less than you're getting now. And people were startled thinking they're going to start treating this as a block grant as opposed to letting the formulas run where you get more money for poverty, E&L students, special ed students, growing enrollment in general. So that was of great concern, but there was an article today in the Times-Union about how the governor's office had recanted that. They gave some assurance they weren't getting away from the formula. They were going to make some enhancements to it. So I'm sure there'll be more coming out on that. Okay, this slide, this is the first year I've ever done this, but I actually saw a strong correlation between our lobbying activities and some of these activities we've been lobbying for 5 or 6 years, but we continue to hammer along and we continue to hit more and more of the relevant groups, and this I think is fantastic news. Foundation aid, the average in the state is 2.6%, and our district will be getting 3% or $1.5 million in new aid. So a lot of our arguments around foundation aid is, you know, we have this huge influx of E&L students, and that's an unfunded mandate, and there was talk of a separate funding streams, but we did some research and advised them if you would just let the formulas run and pay what they say, the formula has that built into it. So that was great news, as well as our growing enrollment in the district overall. Again, the formula, the foundation aid, if they let the formula run and pay what it says, there would be some compensation to districts such as ours. So that was great news that was, and they actually had indicated some of that was due to the E&L population, so that was great news. The community school aids, there's a tremendous increase in there. Our district will actually be getting a $600,000 increase for community school aid next year. Again, great news, it's about $3.2 million. The thing about community schools that's unique from most of the other state aid categories is this is treated like a grant where you spend the money and you get reimbursed, and they've given us a 1-year commitment. Last year they gave us a 1-year commitment. This year we have a 1-year commitment. So the danger in creating all new programs and expending all of this funding, for example, next year, is if the year after there's no funding, you're going to have to take all those programs away. So it puts, we've explained this in our lobbying efforts as well to the relevant bodies, it puts all school districts in a difficult position because you're kind of hanging on a thread out there. And we all know it's really not productive to put all the energy and time and hiring and staffing into setting these programs up and then taking them out 2 or 3 years later or a year later. So It's great news they're funding more, but we kept arguing in our lobbying efforts that it needs, if they're going to do it, they need to commit to it, put it in foundation aid, so it's there. It's not a separate item. The new tier for charter school transition aid. We've been arguing this for years about the saturation of charter schools in the city of Albany, the devastating financial impact. We currently pay about $35 million a year to charter schools. We might get about a third of that back in aid. This will actually, they actually did something very good here. We're actually getting a $2 million increase in charter school transition aid, which is a tremendous increase. We haven't heard yet. I did see some language. They probably will take some of the constraints off rising charter school tuition, which will take some of this money. But in any event, a $2 million increase is a huge increase, and we're certainly very grateful to see that. The pre-K is another area, and I was so happy to see this as well. And again, with the exception of charter schools, we've really been lobbying hard in these other areas, even this year as well. And it just seems like we finally have made some headway in continuing with the messaging. But the pre-K, our argument was, because we were one of the earlier districts, there were 3 different levels of reimbursement for pre-K programs. The people that got in the pre-K business first, and we were one of the early ones, were getting the lowest rate per student reimbursement. So our lobbying efforts were, this doesn't make any sense. You're penalizing all the school districts that got in the game early, and the districts that are coming in late are getting the highest reimbursement rate. So we had suggested it should be a reimbursement rate. They threw millions of dollars at it, and we're actually going to get a $700,000 increase, a 31% increase, which is tremendous. So that's terribly helpful. A lot of our third-party vendors, they're kind of running on a shoestring. This will actually help to stabilize that. And again, we had actually put some money in that effort last couple years just to try to give them so they could hire higher level staff, especially to put more resources into it. So that's a path we were trying to take, and this will help take that pressure off the general fund, where we'll be able to do some of those goals without impacting our general fund and our taxes. So this gets us to some totals. These totals are a little different from what you're going to see because there has to be adjustments in this. What you see on paper isn't how it all exactly pans out in the end. For example, the pre-K money it shows up in this run as a general fund, but it's not allowed to be general fund. All that money has to get shifted to a different fund. There's also a local share deduction. Last year was about $700,000. That's not shown anywhere. You have to they deduct it. You gotta, in our budgeting, we have to take that deduction. And then the community schools I pulled out as well because I think that's basically like a grant and a reimbursement basis. So when I adjusted for those figures, the state aid run will say like $104 million. When you take those adjustments out, it's at like $97.9 million compared to a comparative budget for that, what we currently have. It's about a $3.9 million increase, or 4.14%, which again is fantastic news. This could have easily been 1.5% or 2%. And there seems to be a very nice, strong correlation between the things we've really been advocating for and things that actually happened. So it's all good. At this point in the game, it's actually good news to be in this spot at this time. Don't go spending all the money yet because we have to staff up a brand new 3rd middle school. And we're also looking at resources needed in E&L, growing population and mandates. So don't have a party yet, but we're in a better position with my conservative estimates, what I was thinking, so I was pleased. So moving right along, the next steps would be to continue to gather additional information on the state aid, continue the development of the base budget, which we've been working on diligently since December. Actually, the administrators were involved in November. That information's all coming together. We'll give you a good first draft on February 2nd. We're also finalizing the staffing needs for the 50 North Lark Street School and the E&L program. We're also developing the academic plan, and on February 2nd, we'll have the first draft base budget, which actually gives us a good starting point. There will continue to be revised estimates in February. There's things on health insurance, in other areas that come in later on when things are finalized. And then the big thing we still wait on is what will the legislature do on the revenues in late March or the last day of March typically. Last year they added quite a bit, but the governor's initial proposal was much lower. So we may not get maybe what we saw last year in terms of increases beyond this. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the president, ask if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan, and I just want to say that, and this is my 6th year doing this with you, and I've never seen you so, I was going to say Jen Lang is correct. Actually, it's almost giddy for you. That's correct. But,
Right.
we're always still never doing all that we need to for our students, so we understand that the giddiness is tempered by knowing what what our expenses are, but it is good to not be at this point almost, because I've seen boards like this where we've been in tears at
Right.
this stage of the game. So that's wonderful. So what we're going to do now, don't be all excited because we're so ahead of the game on the schedule, but we're still going to do the process now. We'll start on this side first tonight. One question, and I promise you we will go around. You will have like a chance for 3 or 4. So we'll go there and then we'll go around and we'll do that. So Mr. Booth, please start us off.
Okay, I actually have 2 questions. Well, bear with me.
If you do one only, because I've been told we need to, everybody's like, let's stick to that process. So we'll do one, we're going to make everybody stick to one, and we will go back around again. I've been on the board when we've done it, and we're going to try it again, I promise.
Okay, so I'll start out with the community schools money. So this year's community schools money was very defined in terms of what we could use it for. And I was just wondering how much of that and you mentioned that it's more like a grant than actual funds because of the limitations. How much of that 2.7 million will we have used this year, and can we roll it over?
Well, we're gearing up right now for a $1.6 million program. We're not going to spend anywhere near that because we're implementing now and hiring now. So we won't spend that much of it. But the thing of that last year, that was added at the last moment.
Right.
Districts had no time to even plan any type of program, multi-million-dollar program, and so it was difficult getting clarification because it was a brand new item of exactly what can we put under this program and what can't we. So, and that with the unknowns of future funding, all of those things. So we will not spend. We've set up a $1.6 million program. We won't spend nearly that much this fiscal year. You get reimbursed what you spend.
Okay, all right, so it's lost, but the expectation is that next year will be ramped up to spend the 3.3.
Well, that'll have to be a question and what we look at, because if you spend 3.3 and there's no funding the year after, you're going to have to take all those programs out. So it's difficult. You may spend something. We'll design a program. It may be somewhere between 1.6 and 3.2.
Can I jump in for a second, too? Because we're trying to be very fiscally mindful of what we're doing. So we're trying to develop sustainable programs. So we're not looking to go up to the 3.3. We're looking to do a really good, sustainable program. And then we're looking at those 4 priority schools plus the 1 receiver school going into a community school model. So we're trying to build it slowly so we can sustain it.
Thanks, Dr. Wilkins. Ms. Lang.
So I'll go back on the community schools as well. Does the community school money have to be a program? Can you do one type of things that would be for that particular year, like field trips? I'm trying to think outside the box. I mean, is there some kind of infusion of learning that we can put in one year that is not a whole systemic program that would enhance some of the parameters in which community schools could
I want to
use
say
this money?
we're kind of stuck in the parameters around community schools because it is one of the governor's initiatives. So it cannot be just action items or activities. So it is going to be wrapped around a real community school model. And that's what we're trying to do. Again, being that we did have a very successful community school with Arbor Hill Community School for several years, we're looking to try to create that again, but in the 21st century, and really making sure that I'm worried about sustainability, and that's why we're doing it very slowly, and we're trying not to veer off too much, because we were looking for that at first, and there wasn't a lot of information coming through from SED. And then all of a sudden, I want to say, in the last 7 months, I'm looking at Lori because we were looking for guidance, it started coming through. So it's a very good point, but no.
Ms. Roach.
First of all, I wanted to briefly thank Mr. Hogan, members of the Cabinet, and the Board's Governmental Relations Committee for their amazing work preparing and lobbying, and I think that had a lot to do with this good news that we've received, and not some sudden change on the part of the state government to suddenly favor us. So it's fantastic news. I just had a question about one of the Empire State After School program. Is Albany one of the state's 16 Empire State Poverty Reduction Initiative communities? Do we know? Is it possible that we may be getting some of that money for those after-school slots?
Well, I Googled it today because I had no idea either. And when I Googled
that's
it.
what I just did, and I wasn't sure.
Well, I found a list of 10, not 16, and we were on the list of 10. And that's all I could find.
So we made
We
the
were
short?
actually the number 10 on the list. But we were on it. So we'll print that out in case they tell us we're not.
And if they go alphabetically, we're probably first.
There you go.
Thank you.
That'll
Thank
be
you
our
very
argument.
Mr. Chichester.
I wanted to ask a question about what you didn't talk about. Could you tell me more about the money that the schools that were in receivership lost when they came out of it? And now that the court has ruled that that money should be given back, how does
Well,
that look?
we'll have to deal with that because we had to back off some of the programming that was paying for. So we didn't spend the money. So because we didn't have the money, we were told we weren't going to get it. So we'll have to see what comes with that, what's allowed, what isn't. I don't know what they're going to do because if the school's off the list a year later, I don't know what they're going to do. But I'm sure something will happen, and then there will be some very fuzzy guidance, and then we'll kind of be trying to figure it out, what's allowed and what isn't, based on similar to community schools last year.
Would we know that before we plan this year's budget? Or
I have no idea.
Let me interject. That's going to appeal, so we're just waiting for outcome at this point. And according to Mr. Hogan, we'll then get direction at that point, but I can't say it's going to make the budget time frame because it's going to be in the courts. So,
thank you.
Miss, no, it was Vicky. Sorry, Ms. Smith.
I know, it's okay. Hey there, Bill. And maybe we don't know this yet, but you know, my question really has to do with the career and technical high schools. You know how those P-TECH programs were set up? They really have been running through the BOCES for more regional kind of programs. Do we stand a chance, or do you think? I mean, 10 schools that's not very many for across the state. And do you see any avenue for a district like ours?
Well, there's some of these that exist in the city right now. And I saw some brief language in here there's been analysis by different groups, so I've been looking at different analysis of different groups. It looks like really what they're trying to get at is college credit high schools, which is another whole programming endeavor. We've got so much, and I have all the academic people here. We have so much going on at the high school with the school improvements and receivership.
Ms. Wilson-Turner is going to help you out.
We took a look at the P-TECH grants when they first came out a couple years ago when I was at the high school. And the challenge is it's having one high school and then trying to create something that's selective within that high school causes additional constraints on an already very constrained schedule was one of the things we ran up against. You know, it is a powerful model if you can establish a community partner who is willing to commit to those students from 9th grade on and making sure that they have an work opportunity once that time is complete. And we struggled with that a little bit. And, you know, my grants advisor is on my shoulder. It was about building the plan before the grant came out and really trying to force fit it in to meet that grant. And it didn't really seem to fit what we needed to be able to do at the high school.
Ms. Savage.
Vicki asked my question.
We are going around again as promised. Mr. Bruce?
Mr. Hogan, pre-K adjustment, how was it adjusted?
All we know is the total aid line that actually increased by 699,000, basically 700,000. That's all we know. I haven't seen any information.
No details. Okay. All right. Thank you.
But whatever the allocation is, we won't have difficulty spending it because we've been trying to, like I said, a lot of these third parties have been hanging on a shoestring, trying to keep these programs going. And we also had to do some subsidy from the general fund as well. So we won't have any problem showing use of the money.
Yeah, I was just curious if they collapsed like the 3 tiers or if they just
Yeah.
increased the amount for each tier.
Much more is not known than what is known at this time.
Okay.
So that's a really good point, and the only thing I'm going to interject is that that's where the Government Relations Committee will step in now again. So Jen has agreed, Ms. Lang, to be the chair of the committee, even though she was ostensibly the chair anyway. But she's agreed to take on all the trappings and the additional income from being the chair. You know, 0 times 0 is 0. But anyway, there will be another meeting with across the street to now continue to let them know that just because the governor's budget came out doesn't mean we're eternally grateful, but so not ever satisfied. So there are some additional things that I know that she'll be lobbying for us. Now, again, we're going back, Ms. Lang. Next question.
So I think you kind of touched base on my question is that for the next government relations, we should see what else we need to lobby for, because if we can squeeze out some more money from our local assembly members and senators, as you know, would be helpful to know what else we need to really lobby for, because I think the points on here were well taken. I think they were listening to. I think our 4 talking points, we hit them all.
Yeah.
Ms. Roach? Oh, I'm sorry, did you?
I just want to say thank you to Ms. Lang. She really was our cheerleader getting us together, as well as Ron Lesko putting our packets together. We are, I want to say, an awesome team when we walk in there with our 4 or 5 strong, and just thank you so much. And it has been a pleasure to see this come to fruition at this point, because we really have been knocking hard on the doors, and thank you for getting us off the line of getting there February and March. We started lobbying October, November, correct? Yeah, so we were
And
ahead of
also
the ball.
want to thank you also, because we basically put it all together. They got it going, and then we're like, here you go, Dr. Wilkins. So you've gone not just into the hot seat of being superintendent, but you are then now going to take your bags, go across the street, and lobby, you know, 10 different people at that point. And so you went from the governor's office with the top people there into meeting with assembly people and state senators, and were thrown in, and you represented us and were our leader there. So it was a team effort, and I'm so appreciative of Ron and of Jen and Bill and of you, and it's an awesome team. And to me, one of the things moving forward, we can talk about it at the next meeting, but is really the newcomer school. I keep saying, doesn't the governor
we
want
have a
his
meeting
name?
with the governor.
Right,
We
doesn't
have a
his
meeting.
right, of course. We said you could name it. It could be the Governor Cuomo Newcomer School. Well, that's right. Anything you want, it just serves our kids. So thank you. Ms. Roach, did you have more?
Oh, wait, I want
I'm
to
sorry.
comment on Dr. Wilkins. First of all, I want to say thank you. But I also want to say thank you to your team for doing what I wanted to be done. But the materials that came forth from what we whittled down to what our talking points were excellent. There was no second draft needed. The information was there. The talking points were there. I was very impressed with what came back to us from our initial meeting. So thank you very much. I was very impressed.
Two more quick things. There's two other people who joined the committee this year. It was suggested that we have a representative from APSA and APSTA. So Laura Franz, who helped and actually put together a statement for the first packet that was done last year, or maybe it was this year, it just feels like last year, and also Zuleika Gale Sanchez. So, or was it Sanchez Gale? I apologize. Sanchez Gale. And those two joined the committee because it was suggested that having staff participate would be very helpful as well.
I just wanted to echo Ms. Lang's comment that now that we know that the purse strings aren't as tight as we thought they were, this is a good time to think about what else could we really use that we can make a case for next year. That's all. Thanks.
Mr. Chator.
I'm good.
Ms. Smith? Ms. Savage? Going once, going twice. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. As Bill is collecting, I'm going to turn the reins over, since Dr. Wilkins is slightly, significantly under the weather, I'm going to turn the reins over for the next item, which is number 10, the presentation calendar, to Ann Savage.
So, I didn't know I was going to be speaking on this until 2 minutes ago, so I apologize if I'm not as prepared as I usually am. This has been a process, this document has been developing over almost the entire time I've been on the board, probably the last 18 months. The intention here is that there be a systematic effort, a systematic understanding of what the routine information is that will be presented to the board. That establishes a structure for the board members to know what's coming, so we don't say things like, when are we going to get the NWA results? Because we'll be able to look at the calendar. And it also allows the staff to manage their life in a reasonable way so that they know, oh, I need to get the NWA results out, and they're expecting them at such and such a time, and it's no surprises, and it's just hopefully will make the whole thing run more smoothly for everyone. It is not intended in any way to be a list of every single thing we're going to talk about at every single meeting all the way along. It is just the routine items that come around on a recurring basis. Just a little history. Since now I've been on the board 2 years, I feel appropriate to talk about the history. That the idea behind this came out initially in a board and staff retreat in July of 2015. It was something that came from there, and then obviously we had a year of transition, and then for the last sort of 10 months we've been, as the saying goes, building the plane while flying it, and this document, which looked a little different just formatting-wise, has been kicking around cabinet and the superintendent's office for several months. This document belongs to the staff, right? This is a document that was produced by the cabinet and the staff, and they are saying to us, this is what we think would work the best for routine. We are absolutely free to make suggestions and make comments and ask for different things. And if we do that tonight, I think what's going to happen is that Dr. Wilkins will take those ideas under advisement and then consult with cabinet. Because like so many things having to do with education, there's much more than meets the eye. So trying to fit things into the time frame where the information is available, where the staff time is available to put things out, is a fairly complex process. So I don't think that we should go into this part of the conversation today and say, I want such and such and such and such. I think we should say, I think it would be helpful if I got a routine report on such and such, and then Dr. Wilkins can coordinate that with cabinet and see what makes sense to her staff. I think that's the key thing I wanted to say in terms of setting this up. Was there anything else you felt I should say since I wasn't
The
prepared?
only thing I wanted to do, because there been some email traffic on this, is to explain the difference between this and board member items, because board member items are board driven, and this is staff and cabinet in a sense driven though by the monitoring needs that we have over things. So while yes, there may not be a state mandate on exactly reporting, well, I guess lottery came up or something else. These are the fundamental things that are done, which are either mandated or which we do in order to support the mandated work. So getting kids into buildings requires lotteries because that's how they get to us in their pre-K work or in the high school. But because board member items are board-driven, there's a lot more leeway and a lot more that the board can drive with that. So for example, athletics was something that Mr. Bruce understandably, and I totally support, the building, sustaining, and as Coach DiPiazza said, the importance of it in our students' lives. But a board member item allows us to say, you know, we want to have a report on what the state of coaching is. We want to have information about whether we've expanded our teams, what are the costs involved. So in other words, there's a lot more leeway on being able to do growth work, to be able to get a report on it, and to be able to drive it in a certain way so that we're able, whereas this, and I may not have been able to explain it then or even now to your satisfaction, but monitoring. This is not the sort of creative reporting where somebody tells us information and then we start talking about the programming behind NWEA and what supports it. And this is just giving us either data or information on curriculum's done, here's the chart, here's the schedule, we're gonna have the curriculum done by this date. The actual program work, the actual meet or other things like that are stuff that's still done through board member item. That kind of system of of getting board support and getting the staff to then do the work within the time they're able to do it on the kinds of issues that we want to discuss, where they're more maybe direction, policy, different rollout, putting different resources places. That's sort of the difference between this, and that's why I used words like monitoring and compliance. That's the best way I can kind of explain it. Whereas the kind of stuff when we want to create a bigger music program or grow athletics or add different people on it, that is something that from what we've seen goes into a board member item because it's totally us. And then all that staff does is say things to us like, well, I can't really get it done for you this quickly. We need a little more time. Whereas this is a sort of a different document. I don't know if that helps, but I wanted the opportunity to try to explain it a little better. Dr. Wilkins.
And I try not to cough my way through this. This is really what the cabinet put forward working with our officers last year and trying to make sure we are doing presentations and SBUs on the things that are mandated and we need to report to, and we need to get board information out and board direction. So not everything in the scheme of the district is here, but the things that we know we have to report to are here. Now, the couple things that are not on here, which you will get reports to, are like the receivership and the AG's updates. You're automatically gonna get those, but they're not on this at this point. They're gonna be things that you're gonna get, but not on a routine basis like this, because hopefully we will not have them on our list any longer. You have lottery on here because it was something that was a really hot topic. So you have one, which is actually results of, which comes up in May, and then the next one is just going to be an SBU. So you'll see that mixed in here are not just presentations, but the SBUs that you'll be getting also. It doesn't stop us, as what Ms. Adler had said, in getting reports to you based off of board member items, but these are the things that we know that we have to make sure you are abreast of, you know what's going on, get the information, give us direction, and we move forward.
So we're going to go to discussion now, and I'm going to just start on the other end, and we have plenty of time, so we can go around another time. So, question apiece. Mr. Chator? None. Ms. Roach, I know, is over there, but we can come back to her. Do you have any questions on this?
No, I don't really have any questions on this. I think it's a nice document to see what we're doing every year. So, thanks.
Ms. Lang? Mr. Bruce?
I do. Thank you for the explanation. I would like to suggest to Dr. Wilkins and the cabinet that we consider an annual report on athletics.
Got it. Not saying we're doing the report. We could do it in the SBU as well, correct?
You've considered it that quickly?
Yes, I have. Because we really don't need to be doing presentations every year. We could do SBU, so I will take it back to the cabinet, but we got your request at this point.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
And there's always always the thing within our control, fail-safe, which is board member items, not using that that's not a tool. I'm just saying that we don't use our things in the ways that we, can, and this will help us do that, regardless of the outcome. Ms. Smith. Ms. Savage. Anybody else? Thank you so much. Moving on. I'll put my glasses on. Thank you. And this actually did start under Ms. Farrell in a very different form, and I want to thank, since tonight is all the time in the world to thank people, which is helpful, I want to thank Ms. Savage and Ms. Tibbetts. Ms. Tibbetts for really doing a tremendous job when she first started on this, and then Ms. Savage for then saying, I will put it in the shortest form I can possibly imagine. And so we now have it in 8.5 by 11, tiny little form, and it becomes then less, not just paper, but less computer space for us to be looking. So thank you so much for that. So we are now going on to what is ours, which is the annual governance calendar, which is a board thing, and that is item 11. Ms. Savage again.
So people have probably got the theme here that I really like to know what's coming down the pike. I like to have things laid out in advance. I find that that's a productive way for us to live our lives. And so this is way too small for people to see on the screen, but it is online, and the board has had the opportunity to look at it for about a week, and the public for a couple of days. And what this is essentially the embodiment of the board goals we adopted last time, and the other governance responsibilities we have as a board that are more than just the routine processing of contracts and whatnot. And so you'll see that it falls essentially into a couple of categories, which are our 3 board goals. Those of you who have been tracking along with us know that the board goals are for us to improve our governance and to really have better professional development around that, and to have better, more efficient board meetings, and to have clearer lines of communication both with the public and with the staff. I'm grossly simplifying those. But the efforts to do those are now on a calendar, and that calendar was that big grid thing that you saw in front of you. In addition to those things, we also are trying to do a much better job with new board member orientation. There has been a very light board member orientation over the last 3 years, and that has been a challenge for this board as we try and make forward progress, because we're still trying to figure out what's going on. So we're trying to not just orient the brand new member of our board, but to reorient the rest of the board who had a fairly light orientation over the last couple of years. In addition to all of that, everyone knows that we are involved in a superintendent search. And so there's a tremendous amount of effort involved in that has to be squeezed into our calendar. And as part of our regular governance of the district, we're responsible for evaluating the superintendent. All of those things have to somehow magically get forced into a calendar, and that's what's in front of you. So there is a minor update to this that I will try and keep this fresh, but we do have a couple of dates established which we can put on there, and Ms. Tibbetts always notices all these meetings publicly anyway through our normal processes. But this is our opportunity to look this over as a team and make sure that we feel like we're on the right track with the calendar.
Thank you. So I'll open it up for discussion. Mr. Bruce?
So I'm reading here under Board Goal 1 that Vicky, Sue, and Ann met with Mr. Yagleski from the Capital Region BOCES in November. Was that charged by the board, and was there any feedback from that, or did I miss it?
Yeah, we decided as a group that it would be good to have some feedback from John on ways to do governance. Originally, I was going to go by myself, and then I sent an email to the whole board and said who would like to go with me, and Vicky and Sue volunteered, and so came. We did not provide a report out because we met like 2 days before Thanksgiving, and then it was Thanksgiving, and then it was Christmas, and then all hell broke loose, so we have not gotten to that, but this is essentially the takeaway was in here. That was part of the reason I was so explicit in here, is I wanted to get that reported out.
Right. Okay, all right, thank you.
And you would have seen, so the email went around, it is BOCES, both John Yagleski and Lynn Wells, it's a short name I should have no problem remembering. They're going to do the February 15th board goals retreat with, that we're going to have with the board and the superintendent around communication, and then also superintendent board roles, which is a really good, that's a very, very good 2 items that work together. And I'm not sure, I think Paula may be there. Yes, Paula will be there as well. So that is our first retreat, and we're actually doing it on the 15th, and I'm thrilled that we got the date and that they're available, and so it should be really, really good. Next, Ms. Lang, anything? Ms. Roach?
Thanks. I just wanted to thank Anne for putting this together. It's very thorough. And just touch on something that I've briefly mentioned before, and it's please, if there's a way to make it work to have board retreats on the weekends and not on the evenings, that would be so much better. After the end of the long day, to spend another 4 to 5 hours on retreats, it can be very, very taxing. And sort of the last time, or one of the times we did that, it wound up with an argument because people were overtired, and it sort of defeated the purpose of having the board retreat. So just my little plug for weekends.
Actually, I'm really glad you raised that, Ellen, because I end up being sort of like the board scheduling secretary somehow, which is fine. I don't mind playing that role, but it's been my impression that while that's your preference is to do in the evenings, I'm not sure that that's everybody's preference. So I actually would like to get a read on that, because what I've done in the past is send around Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights as opportunities, and I haven't really focused on Saturdays because it was my impression that people wanted to not use their weekend for board service. So I'm interested in other people's opinions on that as well.
And I see Sunday evenings are tough for me, but Saturday and Sunday during the day are easier. I would almost prefer to have, like, come in 8 or 9 o'clock on Saturday morning and stay through lunch.
That is what we had done back when we had our last retreat. It was back in, well, I can do it by process of elimination. If Kenny and Ann weren't there, then I know.
2013.
Right, so, but we also had a retreat even before that. I think a bigger one was a morning, and we did it at Milne Hall, and it went, it was a morning, so we have done that. So maybe the next time for our doodle poll, and I think that's also going to be our summer retreat, is we will probably look to do that, and hopefully it will be easier in the summer, so we can add that to the doodle poll. And also that way we can see when people sit down and look at their calendars what they're able to sign up for. So we can certainly add that to it. Thanks for bringing that up. Mr. Chatar? Nothing? Ms. Smith? Ms. Savage? We are good on this. That concludes our business for the evening. We're now moving into board. I know, look at that back there. Is this a new day or what? Board member items. Ms. Roach.
I'm not 100% sure if we would consider this a board member item or other business, but I did want to make a request for more information about our current policy on field testing, because it was my understanding that the district had opted out of field testing last year after passing a resolution 2 years ago that we were not in favor of field testing. But I got feedback from one teacher that we are being asked to participate in certain field testing.
So that's probably
weird.
not so much a board member item as something that maybe we could ask the superintendent to.
I'm looking over at Cecily. I don't remember us doing any field testing. Kent and Cecily, not to the excessive amount that we had before. It's lower. We need it, because I know we were getting a request and we were turning them down.
Yeah.
So the SD position is similar to the position on opting out of exams in general. There really is no provision to opt out, but people can refuse. When it comes to field testing, the expectation is you will participate. There are many times when a district will choose to simply box the items back up and return them. And I understand the board did at one point recently generate a position statement, I guess is what I call it.
Yes.
Since there's no formal provision for opting out, let's say. This year we did, though, present the goal or desire, at least from my office's perspective, to participate in some computer-based field testing standalone, so that we are in a better position to go operational with computer-based 3 through 8 assessments, which are still scheduled to be operational in 17-18. So we did reach out to buildings, giving them the opportunity to opt in, so to speak, for field testing. We also have a very limited pilot associated with nicest slot, which will also be CBT.
That was the one that I heard about. My understanding was, again, this was from a middle school English as a new language teacher, and she
Right.
said that there was a field test involving basically 30 minutes
30,
speaking, 30 minutes of speaking one-on-one with English as a new language students, and then recording the conversations and uploading and sending these recordings of the students talking to the state ed department. And she said it was very time-consuming and also somewhat, you're uploading personal information about these kids. I
Well,
don't
that's
know.
another case where I like to be positioned for what is going to be the format for nicest slot assessments in the near future. The SED is piloting that as well. In fact, you're correct. It will be a process by which there is a digital recorder. There's an interaction with the teacher and the student, and then that data file, so to speak, is going to pass through a proprietary application.
And I understand that we'd like to be prepared for those. I think what the teacher expressed to me was these students are already being tested more than your typical student because they're being tested in the NISLAT tests as well as often the standard ELA and math tests that all students in those grades are taking. So to put an additional burden of this field test on them, she felt was onerous. That's just passing the information along.
I understand. The scope of that, by the way, is 30 students across the entire district.
Right, but for those 30 students and the teachers that are working with those 30 students, they felt that it wasn't really helping them, helping them with the teaching or helping them reach the students. That's why I'm just bringing that up to express that.
Thank you.
But hopefully we answered the question.
You did. Thank
Okay,
you.
great, thanks.
So since I messed up, and Anne just pointed out to me that I single-handedly amended the agenda without 4 other votes or a motion because board member items are not up here because we had a student representative, or maybe it's because it's a workshop. I just didn't notice.
We developed it as a tradition last year when our meetings were running rather long, that when we had a student representative, we would not do board member items or board committee reports the day that the student was here, because we could wait 2 weeks and do them the next time.
We did have a loquacious, wonderful but loquacious student last year. That is our $60,000 word for the evening, folks. So since we don't have those 2 items, I will, though, take the liberty to answer a question that is sort of an update from a prior set of communications and also at a board meeting, and actually was just mentioned to me by 2 other board members, and then we can adjourn. And that is, there was discussion around the wellness policy and a memo trying to interpret the wellness policy going out into the field in the sense. So about what sort of the wellness policy meant when you rolled it out in the buildings for purposes of, for example, like, birthday celebrations and how that would roll out for purposes of nutrition or kids who didn't have families bringing in treats or any of those things. And what we started to do last year, and I think is a very important thing going forward, and probably the only thing that is a presidential prerogative because we are not have any additional powers as officers, is the idea of working by committees. It's a very good thing that we do, and while the Wellness Committee is really a district committee and not an actual special board committee, its purpose, in a sense, is somewhat similar, or should be, at least. We'll sort of work with that. So I have spoken with the superintendent, and as board presidents do weekly. And then I also did mention it to Ms. Roach, who is representative to the Wellness Committee. And certainly over this weekend, I'll be setting up and very much trying 100% to respect everybody's wishes on their committees again for this year. But with the new board member, if you wanted to then join Ms. Roach, you could join her on that committee if that's one of the things you wanted to do. But I'm going to, in that sense, like we've done with facilities a number of times, send back to committee this issue of that interpretation. And what I discussed with the superintendent was as follows. When we're talking about a board policy that then staff in a very positive way wants to put into language to roll out into the field, meaning to the buildings and to staff, because it is generated from a policy, it seems to me from a process standpoint and something that we agreed on that it would make sense, consistent with how this board has worked, is that then that, what I think was a talking points memo, or any other memo seeking to interpret how to roll out a policy of the board, that when that document is done, that document should then go to the policy committee so that the policy committee can look at it and make sure that it, in fact, in the policy committee's opinion, it is consistent with the policy. So meaning you have a talking points memo, we talked about this, and then it would go back and the policy committee would say, yes, this is exactly what we mean in obviously just whatever terms you felt was best to explain it. Or they might say, no, I think that this actually is more restrictive, or it's actually going beyond what our policy says. So I think that piece was missing. So.
Yeah, if I can comment briefly on it, I think there's two issues, and the one was that the one-page summary of the policy wasn't entirely consistent with the policy as many committee members understood it. And then the other issue was, what were principals permitted to go beyond the scope of the policy? Were principals required to be implementing the policy in lockstep, or were they required, or did they have discretion? Because some principals had already been implementing certain of the new wellness policy provisions. Some of them had implemented a lot of the nutritional ones. Some of them had implemented a lot of the recreational ones. It varied, and each principal is taking it at their own pace. We've got to now that the referendum is over, and we'll be able to hopefully work with communications, the communications department more closely. We can get to the bottom of Cupcake Gate.
So anyway, oh please, Ellen. So anyway, getting back to this, what I was going to say is that, first of all, that actually is just something that is more involved in just the wellness of our children than whether or not it's a cupcake. So I know I would say it's late and chalk that up to that, but it's actually early. So instead, I'm just going to say consistent again with the way that I think the board works best when it's been started over the last year and change, is to send it back to two places. It doesn't just go back to Wellness Committee, but the issue of whether or not the policy is so that's the talking points memo. That goes back to the Wellness Committee. But the implementation of the policy, of the wellness policy, is something that should go to the policy committee, because you guys aren't just revising documents, you're discussing policies. And since the superintendent, because she has been wonderful, and I understand attends that meeting, you have the right. Well, she could attend the one when you discuss the policy. No, I'm saying, let me start again. The talking points memo should go back to the Wellness Committee, because that is where people are trying to take policy and make it no, that's a very bad word since you're talking about food, but put it into vernacular, put it into working language. And then, as I said, that extra step would is go back to policy committee, make sure it interprets it right. As for whether the policy itself is being used out in the field, I want for a different phrase, whether it's at buildings or otherwise, at schools or otherwise, whether it is being implemented properly, whether there's too little discretion, whether it's being adhered to me, that is a discussion at the policy committee with the superintendent and the policy committee, because in addition to your going, like I said, you revise policies, but you also, I think the point of the policy committee is to sit down and say how there's a problem with this policy, yes, no, oh, here's where the problem is, or this is what I've heard, when it's not what we intended as the people revising it or writing it. That, I think, is committee work, and I think that's where you can have the board and the superintendent talking about it at that level. And so unless somebody feels otherwise when we can discuss this, I really believe that we have always talked in the time I've been on the board of not actually operating through committees and doing a lot of the nitty-gritty work there. And I think that's the place where if there's a problem with how something is happening across buildings, that it gets done. So.
I guess I'm not completely understanding how. To me, what you're describing is more governance rather than policy. So the specific implementation by the different buildings of the policy, once once we've agreed on what, once we as, first the wellness committee, then the policy committee, then the board have adopted the policy, I'm not sure how that fits so much within the purview of the policy committee per se, but I think whatever we do, we'll send it back to committees and work it through.
Well, if you could try it. The reason I'm saying trying it
happy
is
to.
because it sounds like there at least needs to be, at first blush, the conversation with the policy committee and the superintendent over what people think is happening with that policy out in the buildings. It may be that then the facts will be established, and then you can figure out, oh, maybe this is something we can do here, or if not, then it can come back to the
Well,
board for where the best place is.
What
for it
I
to
mean
be.
is, and one of the reasons that I think it may not be the place entirely for the policy committee to handle it first is, for example, the wellness committee is in the process of finalizing a survey to be sent out to building leaders about how they are implementing the wellness policy. So we're already in the process of beginning to plan to collect data from the buildings about how they're collecting that. So
That sounds good as well. I'm just sort of saying it seems that maybe that work, whichever place it winds up going, would be at the level below, not in structure, not in
Right.
terms of authority.
No, I totally understand. I think for the same reasons of efficiency that you're suggesting, more delegation to committees, I'm trying to make sure that that committees aren't duplicating each other's work. So that's all.
That's
We-
wonderful.
I think we agree.
And the best part, I know you don't sit on policy, but if there's a problem, let's just make sure we all know about it and figure out where it's supposed to go. But I do agree with you, thanks, because I think the theory underlying it is the good one.
So I will say that I think that we ought to be careful of not using the policy committee we should be careful of the policy committee because everything's a policy, and the policy committee cannot be in the position of essentially serving the role of the board, right? That's not appropriate. I will also say that one of the things that they stress in all of the board training is that the development of policies is a cyclical process, that you develop a policy, that it's implemented, and then it's reviewed, and then it is adjusted. And the Wellness Committee did a particularly strong job of building into that policy a reporting requirement which would allow that review and revising. Not all of our policies are so nicely structured for that purpose, so it is a little tricky to figure out how to and under what scheme to review our policies more than just the document level review that you were describing. And I do think it's a place where the policy committee has a lot of growth to do, but as Dr. Wilkins and I have been working very hard over the last year, we're just trying to get back to ground zero, because for several years prior to the last one, policies were just not necessarily being reviewed on a timely basis. So we right now have a very significant backlog of policies that have not been reviewed in a timely manner.
Add one thing. Also for the Wellness Committee, I think a little bit of going back to Policy Committee was because of that fact sheet. I think we got off base with the fact sheet. So I think at the Policy Committee, we just want to make sure that fact sheet is actually in adherence to the policy. Then we can go to how it's being implemented at the building level. The fact sheet got in front of everything, and it got misinterpreted, and then some buildings are doing this way, some are this way, and that's kind of where we are.
That's
So
our problem.
the fact sheet has to get out there. We need a quick, easy read, bing, bang, boom, and then we can get it right out to the building so everyone's walking on the same pace at the same time. I think that's what our issue is right now.
So what page are the principals all walking on, so that when I get a question, well, that is a really bad metaphor, but when I get a question from a parent, because some families have seen this fact sheet, which I was under the impression was a draft, and so I'm like, "Ooh, I don't know." So can you just help me understand what the status is of that fact sheet?
Well, the
according to
fact sheet
staff?
went out, I want to say, at the October meeting, one of the October meetings.
The principal
October principals meeting. It went out at the October principals meeting, and it went out, we talked about it, and it went out to the buildings, and it got interpreted maybe 17 different ways, because when you look at the fact sheet, when you look at the policy and you look at the fact sheet, some things can be misinterpreted. So I think we got to pull the fact sheet back. We're in the process of doing that. We've got to get back to the Wellness Committee, let them know what's going on, and we're going to have to pull that fact sheet back in, and then I think we have to regroup again, and that's why I got to go back to policy after that. So, does that make sense?
Thank you. That's very helpful.
And I want to add on to Anne as being on the policy that I don't want necessarily this to be a habit, but I understand how there can be some that, you know, we do need additional work or that the committees need to work together on certain avenues. And I also wanted to talk about the wellness policy. I know that that was started because of our federal dollars for our lunch program. And I would like to either have the committee somehow expanded so that it was more of a district wellness policy that would include other items than just the wellness policy on it, just health and wellness in general as well. And I don't know if that's something that.
Are you talking about expanding the mission of the committee?
Well, I don't know what the mission of the committee is.
Okay,
Is it
so that's a
solely for?
separate issue and something we had sort of talked about. So that has to do with whether or not the board decides, pursuant to our operations manual, whether we want to create another committee, which we have the right to do. Yes, because the committee as it now is formed is a district committee. It's not a board committee. And it actually has a not a mission, but a charge based on the legal requirements of its existence, which is a separate issue. So that's something that we've talked about, you and I. And so what we can do is we can, at the next board meeting, and even before that, we can certainly look into. We can also look at the retreat, at our operations manual, and about the process that's in there for purposes of creating a board committee.
I disagree that a new committee is necessarily required for this. I think the existing wellness committee is charged with creating and enforcing and updating our written wellness policy. And while there are federal requirements under the USDA Food Service Program as to what we do need to include in our wellness policy as a minimum, if we chose as a wellness committee and then a policy committee and a board to adopt additional tenets or additional best practices as part of that written wellness policy, then it would fall within the purview of the existing wellness committee to enforce those. For example, if we were to say, mindful moments is great, let's have in our wellness policy that students should have 2 minutes of guided meditation in the mornings. We could certainly do that. I don't think that would be a conflict or a problem.
That might be okay. My only concern, like I said, is it's not a board committee. It's a district committee, so its makeup is different. And in other words, we're talking about board authority, and one of the things we're doing in the retreat is talking about the sort of superintendent lanes and board lanes and then the areas that are gray. But a board committee is a board committee and a district committee is different. And so I agree with you that there may be more things that can be discussed, but for purposes of whether things become adopted and go up to the board level, I do think, I will actually now go, what I'll do is I'll go to NYSBA information and see if I can find out about that kind of interplay, and it may be sui generis, as we like to say, lawyers in the field. This may be totally new, but we'll try to figure out, and I'll try to get some answers for you by the next board meeting as to whether or not we need a board committee for that, because I'm just, in terms of the structure.
We're talking about this a lot. Is the charge listed somewhere, or where can I get some background information on? It's on the policy? Right. No, just tell me where to find it. Okay, I guess I wanted the original charge that created the committee.
No, the District Wellness Committee is actually something required to be done pursuant to the state law, or SED. I'm sorry, federal law, but we had to do that. That's not us. The district had to create it.
Right,
So
and
now-
I'm just asking where I can get some background information on that.
It's in the policy.
It's actually in the policy? Okay. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, Sridhar.
If you're done with this, can I ask another board member question?
Well, we're actually not doing board member items. But we're discussing, we're a little early, knock yourself out.
I know that the Regents recently released their new STEM standards. What I would like to see at some point in time is where we are aligned with those new
Okay,
standards.
so that's a board member item, as opposed to sort of, I'm wondering what the standards are is a question that can be answered, but seeing how things line up with that, and it's not a big deal, and it may just be a question, do you want like a report on it, or how it's being implemented, or just?
Yeah, I mean, where we are and what we need, what changes we need.
Oh, so just requirement-wise? Oh, that's something that, it looks like Karen can provide that to you.
That's
Got it.
perfect.
Terrific.
It doesn't need to be a 15-page document.
And it's also on the Regions page.
Yeah, yeah.
I know what the standards are, where we align with them.
Yep.
Because they are new
SBU.
standards. They are new standards, so in terms of where we align, that may not be there. So I think that it's time to adjourn. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Yes, Mr. Chatora, and second by Ms. Roach, and all in favor? Good night, folks.
Oh, my God.